Welcome to Secret Story. The weather was awful, so my plane had to circle the airport for almost 40 minutes, making me over an hour late getting out. That I paid the cab driver to get me home as fast as she could, but I knew I was late and Alice had to leave for the company holiday party before I could get home. I called her from the plane as soon as it landed, but there was no response, so I texted her, but still no response. I knew she was mad and would give me hell about this, but it was not my fault. Mother Nature and Delta had dealt this hand, not me. Either way, Alice had clarified that I could not be late, and I should plan to be home on Thursday to make sure. Well, that just wasn't possible. At noon today, I signed the 5-year contract, my biggest deal ever, at the board of directors luncheon. This contract was worth over $100,000 per year in commissions, so I would do whatever the client wanted, wouldn't you? You damn right you would. The sad thing is that I had kept the commission part from Alice so I could surprise her tonight by telling her the great news and then giving her an early Christmas present of a beautiful emerald cocktail ring and matching tennis bracelet. Alice loved emeralds and had always wanted a ring like this one. I added the bracelet to make it a matching set. She would love it. That I texted her when I got home. My text, so sorry to be late. The weather and Delta delayed my flight. I'll be on my way in 20 minutes. Love you. I jumped in the shower and dressed at rocket speed, and the Uber was waiting outside. The rain had finally stopped. I tipped the driver to get me to the Ritz as fast as he could. The Atlanta traffic wasn't bad, but he took the back roads and got to the Ritz in 20 minutes. That still meant I was almost 90 minutes late arriving. Alice would not be happy, no, she would be pissed. Alice is the CEO and managing partner of Atlanta's largest all-female managed law firm. She was used to getting what she wanted when she wanted it and on time. She did not tolerate delay, and that included me. She is a striking woman of 40, tall, with jet black hair. Long legs. I love every inch of her and try to show her just how much, every chance I get, which is never enough. She is the mother of our twin daughters Lana and Laura, who just turned 20 and are just as headstrong and strikingly beautiful as their mother. They are juniors at the University of Georgia, excellent students who want to go into the law. They are Alpha Gamma Delta sorority members, following in their mother's footsteps. This week, they are off in Aspen with some of their sorority buddies and their man friends, skiing and doing what college kids do, party. That I walked into the ballroom, seeing it filled with over 200 people. The Atlanta Showstoppers band was playing their incredible non-stop playlist Alice and her staff had put together. Liquor was being poured, and food stations were all around the room. That I walked across the room looking for Alice and was greeted by people as I moved along. I stopped at a bar and ordered an iced glass of Ketel One vodka. I took a drink and had the bartender top it off. It was a free pour, so he could have given me the bottle. As I stood there a minute, Trace Phillips stopped. He is the lead litigator on all civil cases for the firm. Hey Roy, I see you finally got here. Alice told me while we were dancing that you would be late, a plane delay, right? Well, Alice is not happy. His tone was a little snide. He was an asshole, very full of himself, and made it known to me that Alice had danced with him. I was polite and defended my lateness with, well, it couldn't be avoided. I signed the second largest contract our company has ever had at lunch today, then the weather and Delta took care of the rest, but I am here now. He backed off his high horse a little and congratulated me. Good job, Roy. Have you seen Alice yet? No, I was looking for her when you stopped me. I should find her. I saw her with Thurman Tadmore dancing a minute ago. She is probably still with him. They make a nice dance couple. What a prick, I thought, always trying to needle me, but he is like that with everyone. But just the mention of Thurman Tadmore's name made the hair on my neck stand up. He is the CEO of one of the firm's largest corporate clients. And Alice seems to pay special attention to him when he is around, and he seems to be around a lot. His company is worth millions in billable hours to the firm, so special attention is required for a client like that, but Alice seems to be more involved than she should be. making me wonder. Thurman is a handsome man in his late 40s, with a full head of salt and pepper hair and a long face with sharp features. He looked to be in excellent shape, standing at just 6 feet. He was suave and, as you can imagine, was smooth with the women. He could do the talk. He was not cocky but exuded extreme confidence. The rumor is that he is a man about town, you might say. He was married but divorced his wife without fanfare when she cheated on him with her fitness trainer. He let her go, and there was no big scandal. Alice had handled the divorce personally. It had been several years since then. He had dated many women but had not settled down. The word was he liked married women. It's a good gig if you can get it, I guess. I hoped Alice had not made the terrible choice to become a member of his harem. That I walked around the room but did not see Alice or Thurman, for that matter. I stopped and talked to a few people while scanning the room for them, but no Alice. Then I saw her on the dance floor with Thurman. The song ended, and I was going to go to her, but I saw her pull Thurman to her, and she whispered something. Then she and Thurman left the room. That disturbed me. It was almost 40 minutes, another tall vodka, and a few conversations before my eyes caught Alice and Thurman coming back through the door together. I watched them closely. Alice slicked her hands down over her dress front and back to ensure any wrinkles were smoothed away. She also brushed her fingers across her face and lips, turning to Thurman and asking him something. He looked into her face and responded, then Alice wiped her lips. I had seen Alice do that before. I wondered that I moved my position and saw that Alice was carrying her cell phone. I had taken 2 pictures, one with Alice looking up at Thurman messing with her makeup and one with Thurman's hand on her. I sent them to her in a text with a message. My text: "Hi, my love. I have been here for almost an hour, and I have not been able to find you. I saw Trace, and he said that you were dancing with Thurman Tadmore, and you looked good together. You never responded to my earlier messages, so Thurman has occupied you. I saw you 2 come back into the room, so I don't guess you care if I am here or not. I will leave you to it so you and Thurman can have an enjoyable evening together." Anger, jealousy, and a considerable amount of Kettle One were in my message. That I slowly approached the door when a hand grabbed my arm. I turned, and there was Alice with Thurman right by her side. "Roy, there you are. How long have you been here?" Alice leaned up and kissed me. I looked at her. Hi, accepting her kiss, not giving her anything in return. I also did not acknowledge Thurman in any way. That caught her off guard. That we looked at each other in silence. It was an awkward moment. That I went for it. I reached down and pulled up her hand, holding her cell phone. "Alice, I have called you twice and sent you 5 text messages this evening, keeping you posted on my travel delays and when I will be here. You have not bothered to respond to any of them, yet you have your cell phone in your hand. That makes me assume that you are ignoring me. Am I right? As I was ready to leave, I sent you another text explaining that my attendance here tonight was meaningless to you. So I did not need to be here. I do not need to be subjected to the humiliation of your total disregard for me while you spend all your time with Thurman here. So, good night. I will see you at home if you do come home tonight." I turned and walked out the door. As I walked down the hall, Alice ran up to me. "Okay, I am sorry, I was pissed you were late. I am sorry. Please stop, I don't want you to go." I stopped and looked at her. I pulled her out of the traffic flow into a corner. "Alice, you don't want me here. I saw you and Thurman leave the room for almost 40 minutes. When you returned, you were straightening your dress, worried about your makeup. Thurman had his hand on your, and you did nothing to move it. If you had looked at your phone, you would have seen all my messages and the 2 pictures I took. So don't try to fool me that you give a about me being here. What I saw tonight only confirms my suspicions about you and Thurman since you took care of his divorce. I know you're him. I don't have the proof yet, so go back to your lover boy, and I will see you at home if you come home tonight." But Alice, be forewarned, when I get the hard evidence I need, I will divorce you and bury both of your reputations. I waited a minute. The look on Alice's face was a MasterCard moment, shock, confusion, and total desperation. I was still determining if I had hit the bullseye or completely misjudged what I saw. Then tears began rolling down her cheeks, and she collapsed against the wall. She said nothing, no confirmation or denial. Bullseye, just as I was about to leave, Thurman appeared. Before a word passed through his lips, my right fist hit him in the left jaw. I heard a crack, and Thurman hit the floor like a sack of potatoes. Alice looked at me with shock, then down at Thurman. I called 911. Alice moved quickly, kneeling. Thurman, are you okay? She looked at me. You should go. I will handle this. I will be home soon, and we will talk. I reached into my pocket and brought out the velvet-covered box. I bought this for you as an early Christmas present to celebrate my success closing today's huge contract. But you don't give a about any of that. It is all about you, Alice, it always is. Well, Merry Christmas, Alice. I dropped the box on the floor, turned, and walked out. The doorman hailed me a cab, and I was off home. I had no clue what the future of my marriage to Alice held. As I rode along, I questioned myself. Was I correct in my assumption that Alice and Thurman were having an affair or just a casual or two now and then? I thought about this evening, and one thing that struck me was Trace's comment. That Alice and Thurman made a nice couple dancing. I wondered if that statement had another meaning as well. I may be reading too much into it, but it did seem odd that everyone seemed okay. That Alice and Thurman were together the whole time I was there, and she was not with me. It was like I was okay with them being together, which I was not. I arrived home, gave the cabbie a 20, and went inside. The house was dark. There was no life there, making me feel extremely uncomfortable. The night was not going as it should have, and now I had to wonder what was in store for me when Alice arrived home. Assuming she came home tonight at all, I was pissed at Roy. He had not listened and came home yesterday, as I told him. He said he had an important meeting today at lunch, but his plane should have him home early enough so he would be ready to go on time. He didn't understand that this night was especially important to me. And it would not look good if we did not go together. It would be seen as a weakness, and I could not show any weakness in my position as CEO. His plane was delayed, confirming he was not going with me and would get to the party as soon as possible. I was pissed now. I stewed over things as I slipped into my bath and soaked. I grew madder and also saw an opportunity to teach Roy a lesson. I made a call to Thurman Tadmore. Thurman, Roy has been delayed and cannot accompany me to the party. I cannot go alone, so will you pick me up and take me to the party tonight? Roy will come as soon as his plane lands, and he can get dressed. I will make it worth your while. Alice, you know I would love to be your date. What did you have in mind? I will come up with something, or you can come up with something and see if I am game. Okay, what time do I need to pick you up? 6:30 p.m. Okay, I'll be there. I hung up. I have cast my lot for tonight. Roy will not be happy, but neither will I be. We will see how things go. I had planned a special night for Roy and me. I booked a suite that had a splendid view of the city. I was going to sneak us upstairs during the party, then later, we would have a night. I also had a special early Christmas present for him, but now none of that will happen. Roy will have to learn to listen to me. Maybe Thurman will have a use for my suite. I would hate it to go to waste. I soaked in the tub. I closed my eyes and thought about Thurman. He was a nice man, and we had mistakenly been together once. And once I had him all night in our because I was pissed at Roy. Thurman was a beautiful. He is nowhere near as well equipped as Roy, and Roy is an amazing. The first time with Thurman. The second time, he was much better, but I knew it had been a mistake, and after that one time, we had only done business together. That was until tonight when the first time happened. we were in a meeting and took an hour-long break while some documents were drawn up. Thurman took me to his office to relax and have a drink. I needed the bathroom, so I used the private one in his office. While I was inside, Thurman knocked on the door and asked if he could come in. I was shocked. He pleaded with me to let him in, so I opened the door. That shocked me. I was unsure why I had let him in the room. I looked up at him. I didn't know what got into me, but I needed it. I smiled. Tit for tat. We don't have much time, so get down here and eat this sweet thing done. I quickly returned to the bathroom with my handbag and fixed my makeup. Thurman was changing his shirt to another white one with the same tie that we made it back to the meeting, chatting as if that was what we had been doing the whole time we were gone. The second time we were together was my doing. I was pissed off at Roy for going on a fishing trip with his buddies over the weekend after he had been traveling on business all week. I wanted some me time with him, loving and hard, but Roy didn't give me any of that, so I knew where I could get it. I invited Thurman to our house for dinner and let things happen that we had a wonderful steak and corn dinner with a couple of great bottles of wine. First, I had cheated on Roy for leaving this weekend. I felt the power. I knew I had Thurman where I wanted him. He would be my client as long as I wanted him to be, and there would never be a repeat of tonight. I washed and dressed and did my hair and makeup. I was wearing a new dress I had bought for Roy, but now it was for Thurman. Roy lost out again. I had 2 glasses of wine. I wondered what would happen in the car on the way to the Ritz. 6:30 p.m. came. There was a knock on the door. It was Jared, Thurman's driver. He ushered me to the town car, opened the door, and Thurman welcomed me in. We kissed lightly, and he poured me a glass of Cristal champagne. We settled back for the drive. So, did you figure out something for us to do? I asked with an evil smile. What about Roy? He will be there sometime. It could get messy. I will handle Roy. You just handle me, but not in front of everyone. That would not be good. It cannot be obvious. I reached into my clutch and handed Thurman a key to my hotel suite. This was supposed to be for Roy and me tonight, but no more. Roy will learn to listen to me. Wow, you're being pretty hard on him. Why? I told him how important it was for us to go together tonight, and he needed to come home yesterday to make sure that could happen, but he refused, giving me a lame excuse that he had an important meeting at lunch today and his plane would be here in time. But as you can see, it was not, and he is not here. Roy has pissed me off. Jesus, Alice, it is not Roy's fault the storm came along, and Delta delayed his flights. Don't you think you are being a little hard on Roy? It seems like it to me. I thought about what Thurman said, and he was probably right, but it was too late now. I was with Thurman, and he was getting the goods tonight during the party, then I would deal with Roy later. Okay, you may be right, but I made a deal with you and will fulfill my end. Are you going to fulfill your end? I looked at Thurman's. You won't have to wait long. After a few dances, we will each disappear and meet upstairs. Then we will slip back to the party like nothing happened. I know you are after Connie Ellis. I made sure she was here tonight and alone. I told her you were interested in her, and she got all giggly, so later, you can take her up to the suite and when Roy gets to the party, I will ignore him and flirt with you. He probably won't see us return to the room so that we will be safe there. Roy will never know, but I will, which is what I want. God, Alice, I hope you never get mad at me. Thurman said. We got to the party, and I was welcomed and walked inside just in front of Thurman. If you had not seen us leave the car, it looked like we had come separately. I moved around, seeing people and being seen. Thurman did the same. I had drinks, and I danced with a few men. Then, as planned, Thurman danced with me a few times. Once the party was rolling along and the dance floor was full, I looked around for Roy but did not see him anywhere. I decided this was the time for Thurman and me to escape to go before Roy got here. It was Thurman's reward and Roy's punishment. But Roy would never know about it. Only I would. Thurman and I danced to one more song. When the song ended, I said, "I need to use the ladies' room. I'll be right back." And I quickly walked out of the room. Using the second key, I entered the elevator and went to the 33rd floor, to the Peach Suite at the end of the hall. I opened the door and went to the bathroom. I waited. I heard the door open and waited. Then I opened the door and walked out. They were for Roy, but tonight, Thurman was the beneficiary. "Oh, my Alice, you look incredible." Thurman praised that. I smiled as I walked over to the bed. "No, don't touch it, that is my job," I demanded. I glanced at the clock, sensitive to the time. We had another 20 minutes before we would be missed. Done. We said nothing and went back down to the party. As we walked in, the music started a new song. I was self-conscious that I looked different. I slicked down my dress, smoothing any wrinkles, and asked Thurman about my makeup. I rubbed my lips and pulled Thurman out on the dance floor. I saw Roy standing by a bar, talking to some people. He was texting something. My phone buzzed as it had many times earlier. I had read none of his texts, so I did not respond to this text either. When our dance was over, I walked toward where I had seen Roy. Thurman was following me. Just as I got to the bar, I saw Roy walking toward the door to the exit. "Oh, he is leaving. Needs improvement." I quickly approached him and grabbed his arm. "Roy, where are you going?" Roy turned and looked at me. I quickly leaned up and kissed him, but he did not react. Though he did say hi, he said nothing to Thurman. That wasn't nice. Roy looked at me, and he reached down, gripping my hand, holding my phone, bringing it up, and began shaking it at me, berating me for not listening or responding to his text messages. Then he insinuated that I was with Thurman tonight, so I didn't want him there, so he was leaving. Roy turned and walked out of the room angrily, leaving me embarrassed as I saw other people watching us. I quickly followed Roy, needing him to stay. I caught up to him, and he dragged me into a corner. The look in his eye was of anger and disgust. Did he know? How could he? Was he there and saw us leave or come back together? Oh God, did I overplay my hand? Roy began to berate me again and got my attention when he said, "I know about Thurman. Have you been with him tonight already?" I cringed at Roy's words as he went on and on. He accused me of not caring about him and not wanting him to be here so I could be with Thurman. None of which was true. I was just angry at Roy for not being home in time to come with me tonight. As Roy's rant was ending, Thurman showed up. Roy looked at him. His expression changed to sheer anger. As Thurman started to speak, Roy stepped to the side, and his fist hit Thurman extremely hard in the face, knocking him to the floor with a single blow. Oh God. I was shocked as I watched the hit as if it were in slow motion. I saw Thurman's jaw shift to the right, and he fell like a dead weight and hit the floor like a sack of potatoes. He was out cold. I looked at Roy. Shock and fear overtook me. What had I done? How could I be so shallow? Then, my professional brain kicked in. I kneeled over Thurman, trying to help him. In my clouded mind, I heard Roy say, "I called 911. I looked up at him, seeing hate in his eyes. I said, "Roy, you should go. I will take care of this. I will be home soon, and we will talk." Roy said something I didn't hear and dropped a velvet box on the floor. He said nothing more, turned, and walked out the door. I was shocked at what happened and knew I had made a big mistake. I turned back to Thurman. The next minutes were wild. People heard the commotion and came to see it. Hotel security came and kept people away. Trace came up and took charge. I backed away just as the paramedics arrived. Thurman was conscious now but could not talk and was writhing in pain. I stepped back and watched. The police arrived. I went to the officers and explained what happened. Thurman had threatened Roy, so before Thurman attacked, Roy hit him in self-defense. Then Roy left for home. I hoped that would be the end. The ambulance took Thurman to the hospital. I had my assistant May find Connie Ellis and send her with Thurman once the ambulance was gone and the police had taken their statements and left. Trace announced that the party was still going on and the fabulous band was still playing, so everyone should party on. The crowd moved back into the ballroom, and the party continued. That I texted Roy, telling him what I told the police, so our stories synced when they arrived and questioned him. It would be a while before Thurman could talk, and I would sync our stories with him. He will say what I tell him, too. That I returned to the party briefly, refusing to discuss what had happened. A few minutes later, I announced the annual bonuses and wished everyone a happy holiday. Bonuses were bigger this year, so everyone cheered. That broke the moment's tension, and the party was back on. What had happened was just a fleeting memory. A little while later, I knew I needed to get home to Roy and try to straighten things out between us. Trace had a club car ready for me and handed me the velvet box Roy had dropped on the floor. I was genuinely concerned about Roy and had no idea how to explain my actions tonight. I got in the car, and we sped off, not knowing what would happen. I sat in the dark. It was still early, a little after 10:30. My phone buzzed. I dreaded looking at it, expecting Alice to send me a nasty message. I looked at the message and was surprised it was from Trace. Typical of him. He is going to say some shit about Alice and Thurman. That I opened the text. Trace's text: Jesus Roy, good job. Thurman is off to the hospital. Man, you clocked Thurman well. You broke his jaw. He also lost 3 teeth. The police were there and talked to Alice. She defended you as we all did. I am sure they are heading to your house. Alice is on the way home. I just put her in a club car and expect her to be home shortly. She was a pillar of stone. She never addressed what happened, only that you had left because you did not feel well, and she was leaving to take care of you. She announced the holiday bonus checks and said she would be away 2 weeks after Christmas, taking you on a surprise Viking cruise to the Mediterranean. Everyone cheered, and Alice asked me to walk her to the car. The party is back on now after all the commotion was over. The text ended, and another text came in. This one was from Alice. Alice's text: Roy, the police were here, I told them Thurman threatened you, and you hit him in self-defense. That has to be your story. You broke Thurman's jaw so that he won't be talking for a day or 2. I will make sure he has the same story as we do. I am on my way home, and we need to talk. As I thought about Alice's text, I noticed that a second text came from Trace. Trace's text: Ray, Alice is concerned about you, Thurman, and the firm and any legal ramifications that may come from tonight. After all this passes, Alice will withdraw as the firm's legal representative for Thurman's company. She has more to tell you. I will represent you anytime if there is any legal wrangling. You were the man standing up for your woman despite everything. Let me know whatever you need. Alice has much to tell you, and you must listen to her. She loves you, man. It would be best if you guys worked this out. I gave Alice the velvet box you dropped on the floor and took it with her. She did not open it. Alice cried when I put her in the car, knowing she had made big mistakes. Good luck, man. I reread all the texts and thought about what they said. I don't know what Alice will tell me, but I know I will not like it. Likewise, Alice would not like what I would say. I don't know where we are as a couple or how to get through what Alice has done. I heard a car pull up, looked out, and saw a police car parked in front. I turned on the lights in the living room and outside. I opened the door, waiting for them to arrive on the porch. Hello, officers, please come inside. I stepped back into the room, away from the door, letting them enter. I sat down and looked up at them. You are Roy Willis, correct? Yes, I am. Were you in an altercation with Thurman Tadmore an hour ago at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel? The officer asked. Yes, I was. Can you please tell us what happened? The officer asked. Am I in trouble? Do I need a lawyer? If so, I would like to wait until my wife arrives. She is my attorney. She should be arriving any minute. The officers looked at each other and then back at me. That, of course, is your choice, but all we are trying to do is understand what happened. So, are you comfortable giving us a statement? Okay, yes, I am okay with telling you what happened. For the next few minutes, I told the officers about my night and how I so easily knocked out Thurman Tadmore. It was hard, but I suppressed my smile as I told them how I broke his jaw, knocked out 3 teeth. I told them Thurman had been hitting on Alice, and it pissed me off. When he tried to get in my face as I was in a discussion with my wife and moved like he was going to attack me, I hit him as hard as I could. Did Mr. Tadmore take a swing at you? The officer asked. No, but he moved up against me as he stepped between me and my wife, then bumped into me and butted into something that was none of his business. Have you and Mr. Tadmore had issues before? The officer asked. No, officer. I have only met him one other time and had no words with him at all. I think he had been drinking tonight, which had something to do with what happened. Had you been drinking? The officer asked. I was late getting to the party, as I told you, and had 1 drink before I decided to leave. I was very tired, and the music was very loud, so I wanted to go home. The officers looked at each other. Mr. Willis, we have all we need. Thank you for your statement. Does that mean this is over? Probably, unless Mr. Tadmore wants to press charges. The officer said that I was happy at that and showed them to the door. They left. As I was about to close the door, the black club car pulled into the driveway, and Alice jumped out, running up the walk to the bottom of the steps. Alice stopped and watched as the police car pulled away up the street. I looked down at her, turned, and walked back into the house, slamming the door hard. I walked to the kitchen and got a Bud Light from the fridge. I walked back down the hall into my den/office. I sat in my chair and then turned on the TV. I didn't care what was on. I just wanted to annoy Alice. I heard the front door open. And Alice walked in. Roy. She called. I sat silently. Roy, where are you? She called out again, more desperate this time. I sat silently. I heard Alice's heels clacking down the hall. Then she stopped at the door and turned the knob. The door was locked. Alice knocked and said something. I didn't hear it as I had turned the TV volume up, drowning her out. Alice knocked louder and called out again. I ignored her. As I arrived home, the club car pulled into the driveway. A police car was sitting in front of our house. I saw 2 police officers walking down the walk and getting in their car. I jumped out of the club car and ran up the walkway to the steps. Roy was standing at the door. He looked down at me, turned, walked into the house, slamming the door. This was not good at all. Roy was angry. I had to make a quick decision. Do I take a hard line that has no basis and would lead to a bad outcome, or do I go into the house and find a way to try to explain what I have done and what has been going on with Thurman Tadmore? Then, beg for forgiveness. Either way was bad. I had grossly disrespected my husband and cheated on him. How can I ever expect him to accept anything I tell him as true? When I tell him I love him, will he believe it? I have shown him no love, only arrogant disrespect, infidelity. Something he has never seen before. Jesus, what an arrogant, conceited fool I have been, and for God's sake, why did I choose Thurman? He is not a great catch and not even a good. What was I thinking? I took a deep breath and walked into the house. Part 2 coming. Copyright all rights reserved. No part of this story can be reproduced in any form or by any electronic or mechanical means without written permission from the author. All characters are fictitious, and any similarity to actual people, living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental unless otherwise stated.